Nobody in Cleveland's front office expected joint practice day number 11 to turn into the Shedeur-Sanders show. It was supposed to be a tune-up, a chance for the Browns to get live reps against a different look, iron out some wrinkles, and let the veterans handle the heavy lifting. But in walked Shedeur, a fifth-round rookie. Carrying himself like the whole afternoon was his personal audition tape for the starting job. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. And here's the thing. He didn't just make a good impression. He turned the Browns quarterback conversation on its head. The setup couldn't have been more in his favor, or more against him, depending on how you looked at it. He hadn't taken more than a handful of first-team reps all camp. Deshaun Watson was still the presumptive starter. And the Panthers' defense, even in practice, is known for playing with that chip-on-the-shoulder intensity that makes quarterbacks sweat. Add in the fact that this was a public session with media swarming the sidelines, and the stage was set for Sanders to either crash or shine. He chose to shine. From the very first snap, it was clear Sanders wasn't overwhelmed by the moment. His cadence was sharp. His eyes never left downfield, even when the pass rush was collapsing. And the ball? It came out like it was on a rope, tight spirals, perfect placement, making it look like the receivers barely had a break stride. Every completion felt like a little message to the Browns coaching staff. Stop thinking about the future. Start thinking about now. One of the moments that had the crowd buzzing came early in the session. On a third-and-long drill, the Panthers disguised a blitz, crowding the line with 6 defenders before bailing into a mix zone. A rookie mistake would have been to panic, check it down, or force the throw. Sanders didn't bite. He shifted protection with a quick hand signal, took the snap, and rifled a 22-yard dart to Amari Cooper on a deep dig route, splitting 2 defenders who thought they had the passing lane sealed. That play did more than move the chains in a practice setting. It moved the needle in the locker room. Cooper walked back to the huddle grinning, and you could see the subtle body language shift from the veterans. This wasn't just a rookie filling in for a few snaps. This was a guy who could run the offense like it belonged to him. And then there was the Jimmy Horn Jr. factor. Before the practice even kicked off, Sanders shared a moment with his former college teammate. Cameras caught them laughing, chest bumping, and running through a quick hand sign route combination they used back in their college days. It looked like fun, but it was more than that. It was chemistry. And that chemistry paid off during the live reps. Twice, Sanders found Horn on quick, timing-based routes that sliced through Carolina's coverage before they even had a chance to react. It was clear they hadn't missed a beat since college, and that comfort gave Sanders a security blanket to operate at full confidence. Even Panthers players couldn't ignore it. One veteran defensive back was overheard telling a teammate, "Man, I wish we had that kid in our room." That's not the kind of compliment rookies usually get from opponents after one day. By the end of practice, the Browns coaching staff wasn't just impressed. They were curious. Kevin Stefanski, who's notoriously careful about rookie hype, walked over to Sanders after the final whistle and spent a solid 2 minutes in his ear. Reporters couldn't hear the exchange, but they didn't need to. Hours later, Stefanski announced that Sanders would start the upcoming preseason game against the Panthers. That's right. After one real session with the first team, Sanders had earned himself a starting nod. The locker room reaction said it all. Teammates congratulated him like he'd just been named captain. Veterans who had been keeping a polite distance started treating him like part of the inner circle. Amari Cooper told reporters that Sanders was lighthearted but locked in, adding, "He takes this seriously, but he doesn't let the moment own him. He owns a moment." Coming from one of the most respected voices on the roster, that's not small praise. It wasn't just leadership and poise that stood out. It was Sanders' ability to adapt on the fly. Throughout practice, the Panthers kept throwing different looks at him. Zone blitzes, man press, simulated pressures. He didn't flinch. He adjusted protections, hit his hot reads, and when nothing was there, he had the awareness to throw the ball away rather than force a mistake. That composure under pressure isn't normal for a rookie. Most guys in their first NFL camp are still thinking about footwork, timing, and just remembering the play call. Sanders was already in the chess match phase, anticipating what the defense was trying to bait him into and refusing to take the cheese. The buzz heading into the preseason opener was unlike anything Cleveland had seen for a rookie quarterback in years. And when game day arrived, Sanders walked into the stadium with that same calm intensity he'd shown in practice. No wide-eyed nerves, no over-the-top bravado, just quiet confidence. From his first series, he looked like he belonged. He commanded the huddle, kept the tempo high, and made throws that seasoned pros would be proud of. One of the standout plays came in the second quarter, when he rolled out to his left to evade pressure and launched a pinpoint strike 30 yards downfield while throwing across his body. The crowd erupted, and the sideline knew this wasn't a fluke. This was a quarterback who could execute under NFL-level chaos. It's worth noting that Sanders didn't pad his stats with safe checkdowns or low-risk completions. He attacked downfield. He trusted his arm, his reads, and his receivers. And perhaps most impressively, he did it without looking reckless. Every aggressive throw had purpose. Every decision had calculation behind it. By the time the game ended, the Browns sideline wasn't just celebrating a preseason win. They were celebrating the arrival of a player who could change the team's trajectory. And the whispers that started during that joint practice, they were now full-blown conversations in the coaches' offices. Because here's the truth, talent like that is hard to keep on the bench, especially when it wins over a locker room this quickly. In the NFL, opportunities like Sanders' joint practice with the Panthers don't come often for late-round rookies. Usually, those reps go to the established starter or the high-profile backup. But when you get that shot, you have to grab it with both hands. And Sanders didn't just grab it, he slammed the door shut behind him. Now, the Browns face a new reality. They have a rookie quarterback who's proven he can run the offense, lead the team, and handle pressure. They also have a high-priced veteran in Deshaun Watson, whose job on paper was never in question. But paper doesn't win games. Performance does. And as every day passes, it's getting harder to ignore the performance Sanders is putting on. The most telling sign? Veterans are adjusting their schedules to work with him after practice. Offensive linemen are asking for his input on protection calls. Receivers are requesting more reps with him in one-on-ones. That doesn't happen unless they believe they'll be catching passes from him when it matters most. What happened after that Panthers joint practice and preseason start was a kind of snowball effect you only see in sports when talent, timing, and opportunity collide. It was no longer just about Shedeur Sanders getting noticed. It was about him forcing the Browns into a conversation they weren't ready to have yet. Because once the tape from that Panther performance hit the film room, it spread like wildfire. Coaches watched it and saw something they couldn't ignore. It wasn't just a rookie making some nice throws. It was a rookie controlling an NFL offense like he'd been doing it for 5 years. He wasn't just hitting open guys. He was throwing them open. That's veteran-level stuff. The first ripple effect came in the quarterback room. What had once been a clear hierarchy, Watson at the top, Sanders buried in the depth chart, started to feel a little awkward. Nobody said out loud, but you could feel it in the air during meetings. When the coaches broke down tape and pointed to good decision-making or perfect execution, more and more of those clips featured number 14 instead of number 4. That's the kind of thing that plants seeds in players' heads, especially when they're the ones catching those passes. Receivers started adjusting their timing to match Sanders' style. Tight ends were telling him between plays what looks they liked against certain coverages. Even the running backs were noticing how he'd manipulate linebackers with his eyes before dumping off a pass. These weren't rookie-level relationships forming. They were quarterback-to-veteran trust bonds building at warp speed. Meanwhile, on the defensive side, guys like Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward were quietly impressed. They'd throw disguised coverages and delayed blitzes at him in practice, expecting to catch him slipping. But he'd stand in, take the hit if necessary, and deliver the ball on time. For a defense that had been frustrating opposing QBs all camp, that kind of poise was a statement. It's one thing to make a flashy play when everything's clean. It's another to stay surgical when you've got an all-pro edge rusher breathing down your neck. The media storm built just as quickly. Local sports radio couldn't go a segment without a caller demanding to know why Sanders wasn't getting more reps. Beat writers started asking Kevin Stefanski the same question in press conferences, framing it as evaluating all options, but clearly trying to poke the bear. National shows picked it up too. Clips of his joint practice throws and preseason highlights ran on loop, with analysts debating if the Browns had accidentally stumbled onto their quarterback of the future. It wasn't just hype, it was the way Sanders carried himself through all of it. The guy never took the bait. When reporters asked about his growing buzz, he'd just smile and say, "I'm just doing my job." No grand declarations, no subtle digs at Watson, no cocky soundbites for headlines. That restraint only made him more appealing to veterans who'd seen other rookies crash and burn under the weight of early attention. In the following practices, Stefanski started slipping Sanders into more first-team periods. Not enough to make it official, but enough to see how he'd look with the starters against a real defense. Every time, he looked comfortable, better than comfortable. He looked like the offense belonged to him. That's when Jimmy Haslam started showing up to more sessions. And let's be honest, owners don't just casually wander down to practice without a reason. The word was out. The rookie wasn't just holding his own, he was thriving. And in the NFL, thriving rookies don't stay backups for long. Of course,